when domains was low. Doma changing the game. One bridge, one standard, now the systems move the same. Registrar stay central, keep the trust and control. DNS and compliance, still they play the key role. Traded on chain, let new markets arise. Domain value unlocked. Welcome to DomainFi.
Welcome to DomainFi. Welcome back to Doma OnAir. This is episode 10. We've got a repeat guest joining us today. Chad joined us, I think it was episode 7, if I'm not mistaken. And back today to talk more about DomainFi and an exciting domain that's launching on Doma next week, August 12th. We've got applications.com, one of his flagship defining assets, and excited to talk about that and more today. Chad, welcome back. Hope all is treating you well. And any major news, any breaking events, anything happened since last time we had you on and now?
No, it was pretty quick. Kind of thinking back what we did talk about last time today. I think the hacks happening, right? I think with AI, as we kind of predicted that a couple years ago, and so it's here now. So I think that's for me in my space that the security hacking has been the biggest news in the space that's kind of happened since our last show.
Yeah, it's kind of both on the AI side as well as I'm pretty deep in the on-chain space, the crypto space, just the this cloud, I guess, is a better way to put it, of just AI security concerns, and I think it probably goes both ways, both on the security concern as well as the ability to audit and check for stuff. It's just, I think it's not an option now if you're building any sort of software, whether it's on chain or off chain. It's like you've got to be crossing your T's, dotting your I's. You got to be doing those security audits. And fortunately, you can leverage some of these LLMs. You can leverage these tools to do that work. But it's just good reminder to be, do your research, do your testing, both as a builder, as an investor, and make sure that you're familiar and comfortable with any protocol risk, any application layer risk, and unfortunately, it seems to be more heating up as opposed to settling down as it relates to those security concerns. But that said, I think kind of in a roundabout way almost brings domains back to the forefront as we think about digital assets and secure digital assets. And while I think values may ebb and flow and might be a little volatile, the underlying the domain itself, the domains plural, kind of insulated from these AI threats in one degree. Does that, I don't know, I'm struggling for words to put these thoughts together in real time, but does that make sense? I don't
know about insulated, right? I think it's, kind of going back to a couple things, just I watch CNBC every day, and, Wells Fargo, the CEO is on there talking about the tokenization of deposits, right? So, so when you start seeing that stuff now in the general public, it's, the blockchain and that crypto side of the tokenization, there was a value proposition there there's a reason now that he's on CNBC talking about tokenization of deposits. And so the infrastructure layer is starting to move past that. So I don't think it's an insulation. I think it's the absorption of new technology stack. And so, part of the discussion last time was, URLs are digital native assets, DNAs, right? So they're inherently digitally native. And so they don't have to adapt or adjust or layer in, or just, they're really already a clean digitally native asset. So from an operational standpoint, so for me, I don't look at it as, I don't think anything's insulated. I think it's what is going to be what is going to be compounded up, and what is going to be pushed down, and what are those assets. And so I think those assets that are not digitally native are inherently at risk. But then you see the opportunities that people that can bring technology and domains to get distribution and identity and these other things that a domain brings, there can go acquire analog assets. And that's what you're starting to see in the real estate market, where they can acquire companies that aren't, optimized, automated, stuff like that. So we're already starting to see that happening now where aggressive people are acquiring companies, layering in technology, getting distribution, stuff like that. So that's now, because we sold mergers.com, but we followed that market for a long time, the M&A market, and that market has definitely picked up, a lot in the last year and a half. So I don't think insulated is a terminology I would use. I would say it's more you have the ability to adapt with the new technology stack and increase the value.
Yeah, makes sense. I wonder, talking mergers, acquisition, you've been talking like tokenizing deposits earlier. How much are you seeing, I'm curious, in your world as far as other assets coming on chain? We talk a lot today about domains, but I think about, applications, and applications can mean a lot of things. Applications.com can mean a lot of things. Seeing, on a maybe a more simplistic level, some of these RWAs, there's like tokenized stocks, and you mentioned tokenized deposits and stable coins, seeing big growth of tokenized physical collectibles like Pokemon cards and sports cards, and bringing those assets on chain. I'm curious how you think about tokenization at the highest level. Like, what do you, like, I've got some thoughts, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think this, let's just assume hypothetically that most physical assets, one way or another, end up coming on chain, get tokenized, or there's a digital counterpart to that physical asset. How do you view that in the domain world? How do you view this tokenization boom impacting domains?
Yeah, I think it's the representation of the asset, right? So, and then the programmability of that asset. So I think that's what I look at as tokenization, right? You're putting a smart contract in place that has, the guidelines and the rules and the stuff like that. And so that's why kind of the custody, and I think you guys realized that quickly after, right? That's why you started Interstellar, and as we can tokenize these assets, but we have to custody them in order for it to work all the way down the stack, right? Because anybody can tokenize anything if it's not backed by it, and you can't redeem it, and you can't these other things, then you're just going to get run into risk, like it's not going to work. And so I think the tokenization is the representation with utility, and programmable utility. And so that's why I think, again, domains that are digitally native are a good asset class, because they can be programmably put in place where you can do real-time transactions, right? I think that's where we're moving to, and I think that's where everybody's excited. Like Coinbase and Brian Armstrong mentions it, like, the human economy is big, but the agentic economy is going to be even bigger. And so if that is true, and those analysts are true, then your asset has to have that real-time trust capability in the identity and so that's where we're still in the really early stages of this, but I think it's going to evolve pretty rapidly, and because again, we spent 8 years pounding and grounding why blockchain was a great technology, and all assets should be used, but it's starting to become almost a commodity. And so, but to do it right is a different story, right? So anybody can tokenize on pump.fun and launch a token and blah, 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 but who can do it right, and who's doing it right? That's kind of what attracted me to Fred and Doma, and that was, ability to put the whole stack from top to bottom and do it right. So that's where I see why domains and the tokenization part is an important part of the unlocking the value of the asset class. So,
yeah, well said. I agree. And when you hit on programmability, it's exactly where I was going, and kind of setting up or foreshadow a little bit of the conversations around applications.com, because you could tokenize nearly anything today. Sometimes there's no, it's literally just you're tokenizing air. There's nothing there to it. It's not backed one-to-one. There's no physical counterpart. You're just creating a token that is just that's all it is. It's just a token on chain somewhere. Whereas what gets me excited about domains and other real world assets, bringing them on chain, is the sky's the limit. Like, you can program both whoever brought it on, the native holder or owner of the said asset, as well as in many cases, they're they're permissionless. They're third parties can program against it. There's just so much more that can be done in many categories. I think domains in particular. I mean, even just seeing already what Doma has done with DomainFi is, and it's not just the extra liquidity, but how they've enabled holders of those tokens to create their own subdomains, and just one simple example of how these once an asset is brought on chain, how it can be programmed against, and unlocks a whole new world of products, of categories, of industries, some of which we haven't even thought of yet. But it does get me excited when we think about something like applications.com and what that means today, and also what it might mean in the future. And chat, welcome everyone. GDoma, as the chat would say, and yeah, feel free to drop any questions you might have in the chat. We're live on X video as well as YouTube. If you're new to the YouTube channel, would love for you to hit that like and subscribe over there. We go live Doma OnAir about every other week, but it's some days it's a Tuesday, sometimes it's a Thursday. So make sure you don't miss any future episodes of Doma OnAir. Just smash that subscribe button and you get a simple notification. We do go live. Chad, I also kind of jumped right into things there. I got excited about today's conversation. I don't want to assume everyone that's tuned in today was here for episode 7. Chad, again, I mentioned returning guest, another domain OG or OG domainer, but also deep in the blockchain space. Just very, we were talking about off air before the show, like he's speaks at a college. My daughter, there's very experienced, wide background of a lot of different things. Founded eCorp. You mentioned mergers.com, Global Ventures, co-founder of Domain Holdings. Do you mind, just by way of background, any brief introduction, anything else you'd like to share about yourself, whether it's domain specific or otherwise, for those who might be hearing from you for the first time today?
Yeah, look, I go by EDAD. It's my Burning Man name. I'm father of 3 kids. That's my priority. 3 dogs are my soulmate, my mates, and my 3 kids. So that's kind of what my day-to-day life revolves around now. Cancer survivor with leukemia, so I've kind of reshifted my time and priorities of what it means to be a human. And so for me, the last year and a half, kind of I wouldn't say just thinking a lot more things, a lot more deeper now into the things. And so I think when I started 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, I never thought where I'd be in 30 years like today. And so, knowing that when I started buying domains, it's like, okay, this is the future, but what does the future look like? Who knows, right? And so, you're just doing something right. And so, again, about me is, how do I now leverage my portfolio to try to create as much impact as possible? That's kind of become the mission over the next 3 to 4 years, is to really leverage our assets to really have meaningful impact. And so that's kind of what the heads down has been. And so, for me, again, my day to day is really, how do we increase the value of the assets? That's what it comes down from a business perspective. And then how does that perspective, correlate in an impact? And so, so that's really about me. It's, again, I'm an open book. I usually speak my mind. Sometimes it doesn't work. I've been known to, kind of call the future too early, but it's usually worked for me. And so again, like applications.com was a package of infrastructure that I started buying, DSL.com, connectivity.com, a lot of technical infrastructure URLs back in 96 and 97, 98, 99. And so that's why applications.com sit, because it's one of the layers to build an autonomous eCorp smart entity. So, DSL.com in 98, we were doing high-speed connectivity on it, because without connectivity, you don't have applications. You don't have streaming.com. You don't have, so all of our portfolio buys were really to try and prepare for the future. And so now we're here. It's not a connectivity issue, and you've got Starlink. Now it's not an application issue. Now it's kind of becoming a security issue, and so now it's even the human issue, right? Because again, with the Hugging Face and that hack, it was a human error that didn't do something right, and the computer caught it.
Mhm.
And so again, so the application layer is becoming again another centralized piece of operating, and it's at a whether an agent or whatever you want to call it, an autonomous company. That application layer is a super important part of the stack now. Again, while these other things could become commodities. So
Very
that's where we're at now. I think we're at that next phase of like where it goes from here. The next 4 or 5 years, it's whatever you want to make it now.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
before you're limited.
Yeah, very I'm curious. I want to talk on the applications.com string a little bit. You alluded you maybe acquired this. Was it in the 90s? Can you walk us through like
Yeah,
when and
97.
how did you acquire this domain?
97. It was, so, and we went for the triple stack. So we got, applications.com.net.org. We went for the triple play, because we knew again, it's a layer, right? It's the application layer is one of the layers in the stack. And so we were going after the connectivity and the packet layer. And then we wanted the application layer. And again, utilizing subdomains, there's a lot of other utilities along with it. So, and then software is an important driver, right? So we I always loved hardware, but I never wanted to build hardware. And you would see companies just building software companies and getting huge multiples. It's like, I want to be more on the software side of the of the stack. And so I think that's where the application layer, fits in. So applications.com was an important part of I don't know. We might've bought that I don't know if we went up and got that one or if that was $100 original registration.
Wow.
I think we went up and got that one. I think we went up and bought that one for like 10 grand back in the early days in 97. So we did DSL applications and connectivity.com, and we went up and got all 3 of those in 97.
Wow. Do you still hold DSL and connectivity, or have you sold?
Sold both of those.
Yeah.
Yep. Sold both of those. So
I got to ask them, with applications, is it been just the right number never came around? Was it more of like this is one you want to hold for longer in the portfolio because of the potential you see with it, or just happenstance other offers came in on the others and you decided to accept it when you did? And
we'll move them. But it's what we started seeing from the traffic was especially in the online job search, right? So applications, we started monitoring the traffic, and it gets very good solid traffic every day, every week. And so it's consistent. We love those consistencies, and we love those assets that can go up or down or across, so they have dual use purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we started seeing was a lot of people are job applications, and a lot of just different, the terminology of the meaning was where a lot of the traffic was coming from. Originally we didn't buy it for people to submit job applications or these other healthcare applications or so. And so I think that could be the best use could be, again, implementing it into the industry, to manage those other people that have to manage that data input.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we started seeing. And so the answer to your question is we never had that partner that said, yeah, this is have to have. And it was always just been the ones we want to build this, or, we want to keep this because it's one of those like legacy ones. And we know and again, consistent traffic and the ability to go up or down is what we like about it.
Very interesting. My brain, I wasn't even thinking about job applications, healthcare. I'm thinking apps like in the app store, right?
Mm-hmm.
But talking about like multiple meanings depending on who's using it. I wonder then, not to get ahead of ourselves, but as applications.com launches on Doma here in a little over a week, do you envision like the subdomains coming into play, like job.applications.com? Like, is that kind of where you're thinking from this Doma launch? Obviously subdomains are a feature on there. Have you given, I guess, the subdomain and the community, those who might be building around or with applications.com, much thought at this point?
I think it's for one of those young or older entrepreneurs that finds an opportunity in a niche and goes and gets it, right? And makes it happen, right? And then becomes known. So I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity still in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opportunities are being expanded with taking it from just a domain name into a tokenized asset. So I think, again, we don't even know yet what will transpire in the next 3 to 5 years from, but somebody from thinking differently or acting differently can now take advantage of that opportunity. So the answer to your question is like, yeah, I could see somebody like, take it, like it's real estate, it's positioning, it's identity. And I think that can be an opportunity for somebody to get in low overhead, high potential, to take advantage of that distribution. So yeah, not for us necessarily. That's why we're using you guys and, letting you guys execute on that and manage that. So, again, but I think there's opportunity in those subdomains for sure.
Certainly. Yeah, you all can check this out as well. For those who might be listening into the audio or not in front of your computer right now, I have a screen share up here, but you can just go to applications.com yourself to see this later if you're listening to a playback. This is just an excerpt from applications.com. The world evolved, the domain waited. Applications is one of the most loaded words in the history of technology. It started with a piece of paper and a signature. It became the backbone of the entire digital economy. And now, for the first time, the domain that owns the word is liquid. So it goes all the way back to the 80s and 90s, talking desktop software. Then the 80s and 90s, the internet era. Then the App Store came around in 2008. Then services software and cloud in the 2010s. And then now the current AI agent era. Applications.com's captured this entire evolution and is now not only liquid but ownable. And if you're just hearing about Doma for the first time today, or the idea of these subdomains for the first time today, when this does go live on Doma on August 12th, those that purchase the tokens or shares, if you want to call them that, will be able to create your own subdomain. And theoretically, you could build out a subdomain in any of these areas. And for a word that still carries so much clout and domain authority when it comes to keywords and searches, the upside is really whatever you can ideate here could become you could make it happen. 2% of the total application supply will be distributed to wallets that trade during bonding and hold for 30 days post graduation. So there's going to be an airdrop built into this one. 2% of the total token supply. The earlier you get in, the longer you hold, the larger your share. That'll be broken down across 2 events. A third of the pool will take place 30 days after graduation, and then 2/3 of that airdrop pool will take place 3 months after graduation, which is somewhat unique here for these new domains. Just some other data while we're here. We talk about global software markets, about a $700 billion industry today, but still growing at a crazy clip, projected to be over 1.8 trillion by the end of the decade. 36% year-over-year growth. AI software growth rate is just going bonkers. And then 7 billion apps across all platforms. And I think it's safe to say that number, while already massive, I think likely that it continues to grow at a crazy clip due to AI. Not only devs and wannabe devs able to ship more software now thanks to AI, but I also think we're getting close, and maybe not fully there yet, but I think we're close to AI agents, bots, self-perpetuating applications, building their own applications without having to be prompted to do so. Might sound a little sci-fi to some of you, but I really don't think we're too far off when you talk about, there already is more bots on the internet than are humans. I think it's a natural progression to think that these agents are going to become, and I'm not going sentient. I'm not saying, maybe someday, but even well before they become sentient beings or sentient bots in the internet, I think their ability to build and ship things, i.e. applications, without having to have a human behind the screen prompting every single thing, I think is probably a lot closer than some people maybe realize yet. Not to get too pie in the sky or philosophical about AI agents and this evolution of the internet, but I guess, Chad, just thoughts on that. Thoughts on AI agent created applications without the human interaction. Are we close? Do you still think it's something that's years off?
Well, everybody talks about the recursive agentic AI, right? It's already here because we were building it with our attacker application is the agents get better by the recursive learning loops that are happening now, and so the memory now is becoming not the issue, and so we're already there, right? I think the frontier models that are being tested now are using those recursive looping systems. Google just announced it too, right? I mentioned FAU's got the quantum computer system going on there, right? So we're at that next stage of the stack. So I think this is going to be one of those situations where the domain, and people talk about the DNS as the truth of the root, or the root of truth, right? And so because again, at the end of the day, anybody can build an application, but it can be rogue and there's no accountability, right? So you can't really build your company for the good guys. You have to build it from the beginning against the bad guys. And so that's kind of been part of the problem, is the bad guys don't care about, keeping it containerized or rules, right? It's your job is to go hack this and give me this and it, right? So we're already there. Somebody released end of the world bot like 2 years ago, right? That and it was like, oh my God, but he wanted to show what was coming. And now I think we're here from, again, just with the Hugging Face hack and that was supposed to be sandboxed, right? So I think we're there. I think we're there, and the frontier labs are there, and they know it. That's why we have to get a wrench on. That's why I think the DNS, as while it's centralized, right? I think that might still become their source of truth when agents are needing to communicate. It's either you have to build a reputation or have some kind of counterparty risk that like Bitcoin transaction, right? It's not worth it for you to hack it. So you have to have some kind of architecturally, structurally there when agents start doing transactions and automation and self-building and self-resources. So again, these are what we call E-corps. So our E-corps are smart entities. And so we want to know who we'd rather transact with a trusted entity or an entity that has another risk. And we don't give a shit if it's a person or an agent or whatever. But we need to know who's accountable if something happens, or what is the protocol if something gets whatever, right? So, and that's where I think we're start getting in the governance and stuff like that. So again, I think we're starting to see this year and next year in 2028, the coming together of blockchain with AI on digital assets like domains to really get that next level of value creation and opportunities. How that fits in and what becomes the protocol standard, or everybody's starting now fight for these interoperable rules. That's why the ERC20 hit really good, is because it becoming standard in Ethereum. Like if you want to build a programmable contract, use the ERC20 standard. And so I think those standards are still kind of being fought for. And that's what we're watching now, is what agents and what standards get adopted. But that's a layer above the domain. And so we don't really care what that happens, because it's then, if the source of truth is the domain, that's what we care about, building that accountability and source of truth on a domain.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, it totally does. I mean, Viral Ghost asks, where do you think applications will be in 3 to 5 years? All AI based. I'll let you answer. I don't think they'll be all AI based, but I think, well, twofold. One, I think a lot of devs and developers were going to be leveraging AI to help build, but then also understanding who's accountable, right? Like the application might have been built by AI, but at the end of the day, where does the buck stop? Who is ultimately accountable for the action, the application, the site?
Well, again, it goes down to where the money goes, right? So, the government on the wallet side is going to have who benefits, right? I think that's what it comes down to. But when it's a decentralized agent, that's why. Who's hosting that, right? Because again, if it's a bad actor and it's hosted by Amazon, there's going to be fallbacks, right? Because you knew the legal lawsuits are going to come, but if you can't find them, can't track them. How do you sue them and everything else, right? So, where do applications go the next 3 to 5 years? AI based, it's already there, right? It's the agents, the interface went from prompting to say, what are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal? Like, what do you want to do, right? And so I don't think when they became a SOL, when they integrated the SOL into OpenClaw, that's what we've been trying to wait for years. When we were talking about, AI DAOs on domains 8 years ago, people were like, what the fuck is he talking about? AI DAOs on domains. But we couldn't find a way to put a SOL in it, right? Like how do you actually build meaning into a domain, right? The human part of it has to usually do that because that's what's driving the direction. But but I think in 3 to 5 years, when an asset can have a governance and rules and history and learning and goals and kind of some rails that says, where are my resources coming from? What are my goals? I think that SOL important is that important part is going to be history, and SOL will help it grow there. So I think applications will grow into an intelligent entities that have a clear value proposition and want to get compensated for that value. And that's going to go into a bank like agentbank.com we're building, and that's going to go into a vault, and that's going to go into, accounting system. And then eventually that will go into a system that will want to be legally structured as an entity that can work inside the physical world. So I think applications are going to break out into their own entities, and I think they're going to need a home, and I think they're going to be backed by a domain to really operate on. And so I think applications are going to be spitting out really fast, but they're going to want to find a home. Mm-hmm. So we're already starting to see it. It's just now human driven. I think in the future, 3 to 5 years, it will be application driven. Humans will decide where they want to participate, if they want to participate. So get in now or start now.
So I guess hearing you talk through that, it's not only necessarily human to AI interactions or AI to human interactions, but you even visioning like the agent to agent interaction, like removing the human almost from the equation altogether.
We're already doing it. PayDirect.com is our payment X402 payment protocol. And then when an agent does a task like contentagent.com, it automatically pays it. And so we don't interact on that transaction at all. And so, no, we are on the cusp of building fully autonomous E-Corp smart entities that run based on, again, governance. History of learning crypto and governance is an important part of operating a smart entity. And that's a hard part, but when it's decentralized governance, that's where people are like, well, that too many people in the room sucks. It's like, who's accountable? Who's driving this ball forward? Right? If Doma fails, people are calling Fred, right? So you know what I'm saying, right? Mm-hmm. But eventually, a decentralized application, who's responsible, who's accountable. Those I think will be settled over time of how the asset starts, or where the application starts, what's its value, how much money. So it's interesting history of how history is going to be adapted into the future. And where does that play in? I think people are going to spin out applications. And my kids now have been using Grok, and now I've been in the real estate side of it the last 3 or 4 months, doing 1031s. Like, hey, find me. So now getting them, they're already integrating into the AIs. It's just how they don't know the infrastructure, and I think that's what I'm trying to teach them. When I was on CNBC, you see the radio. It all goes back to a .com, right? They all like, I saw dumpsters.com. I'm like, awesome. Like somebody had an idea. It's like, I want to be in the waste management business, younger kid. And he went and bought dumpsters and now has a $50 million company on a domain, right? It's more than that, right? But he was able to take a domain, turn it into a big brand. And now he has waste management probably calling him up, say, hey, that's life-changing, right? And then that's when they start doing it, replicating again. So I think the application stack in the last 2-3 years has been where you don't have to have people like Luke. There was amazing engineers. You do have to know how to know that it works, I think. But I think, in a couple of years, the agentic coding commerce are getting better and better to where the application stack is going to be unlimited to anybody at the end user point.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty wild. And I mean, your background, even something like eCorp, like when this didn't just come to be, have you, like, hearing you describe it, and it seems like it was almost created for the agentic world, but you created eCorp a while ago, right? Like this is
98.
Was this the, I mean, I can't imagine, or maybe you did. Did you see this world, like this AI world coming back in 98, or has this just been like kind of a constant evolution of what eCorp is and how you're building?
Well, I think it started as real estate. I was already like mowing and painting grass and just doing that. Like, okay, what do I got to do something besides mowing grass, right? It's a commodity. And so, that's when we just started buying $10 and $100 domains back in 96, right? So I think, eCorp really was a business model to where we want to build these into electronic corporations like that. So that I'd say the definition of an electronic corporation is an eCorp smart entity. Now, we didn't know blockchain or AI necessarily as a terminology, more of, hey, how can we turn this digital asset into really an autonomous company? And so eCorp was built in 98 to turn these into autonomous companies. And that's why when Ethereum and Vitalik and Miami Jackie Gleason Theater really launched Ethereum as a programmable Ethereum virtual machine, they're like, okay, that's it. That's the next layer. That's the next application layer we need to create eCorps, right? And then the AI side of it now is the next, we think, layer. And I think the governance and the legal layer will be, it doesn't fit into an LLC. It doesn't fit into a B Corp. It doesn't really fit into any of the business models of current company structures. So the goal was actually back in 99, 2000, when my friend was the Secretary of State, was that like, we need a new business model, like a B Corp, S Corp, C Corp. And so I still think that needs to happen for really digital smart entities that are running autonomously to have a home legally into the physical world. It doesn't fit into any of the business model structure. So the future vision is to really build a new business model like a B Corp.
Really interesting thing about that, because you think about even like the simple LLC world today, people will go and they'll form their business in Delaware or Nevada or Wyoming, one of the business friendly states. But at the end of the day, LLC is it's just still a limited liability corporation, mostly today comprising of humans. Not only this model or this need for a new business model that incorporates agents alongside the humans, but what is it's almost breaking my brain thinking about what does a fully autonomous corporation look like? A corporation, a business entity that's just agents, and that again may sound sci-fi, but we're probably there already. If not, it's coming really soon, and we really don't have anything today that accounts for this, because it's at the end of the day, it comes back to like, if something goes wrong, where is the accountability layer? Who's ultimately responsible for this? And it's like, you can only go, you only have so much recourse against a bot somewhere on the internet or on a blockchain somewhere. Like, it's whether it's who set it up or like, I don't even, like I said, it almost breaks my brain trying to think through this, but it really is interesting times that it does feel like a need probably sooner than later for some of these new primitives, new ways to build a business.
I sorry about that. I don't disagree. I don't disagree on that. Again, I don't know. I know when we were testing the model, again, it was still 10 years too early. The B corporation structure just came out, but it was like, okay, this doesn't fit, right? This doesn't fit. So I think for me, like in 2000, when I was running DSL.com, I got up to like 15 employees, and we weren't, adding more humans didn't necessarily make us more money. It cost us, it actually was just more lethargic. That's when in 2000 we said, okay, we're going zero, we're going one employee, one person, only because we have to be legally compliant with the government, right? So again, this is where I think like people that know crypto and know these other markets, right? These other financial derivatives like perps and stuff like that are coming. like the ingenuity of entrepreneurship is not going to go down. It's only going to go up. And so I think the governments need to start being aware of this. They're all heads down on the risk because, again, with the Hugging Face and then a couple other people realized that they were hacked, like that's, I think, our biggest risk right now to the economy over the next 6 months is you don't know if it's Iran, implementing, some of this stuff. You don't know the risk actors that can do a lot of damage. And it might take 5-10 years to get the infrastructure cleaned up. And so I think that is our biggest risk now. We're starting to see it. There's a lot of human errors in the application layer that are being found and exploited by bad actors, and it's only going to get worse. And so, again, who you're dealing with and your trusted counterparty risk is going to be super important, I think. So while it's a wild, wild west, I think it's going to get even tighter of who you're transacting with and how. And I think that's a good thing because, again, that's where we mentioned disintermediation before, was when two parties set up a trusted transaction, get out of the way. Like, don't take your 6% like a realtor does to tell me it's a kitchen. Like, thank you. Like, let me pay the asset owner that has that value, not the intermediary party. So I think you're going to start seeing the application layer being a really built, streamlined value distribution mechanism. This is what I do. This is what I charge. This is my deliverables. Don't pay me until the deliverables are there. Release the escrow. Boom, done. Value created. Put it on your asset. Increase that value. So I think that's where we're going to start seeing was where we the next 2-3 years. I think the application layer is going to get smarter, and then they're going to want their own identity.
Yeah, I well said. I agree. I wonder, well, Wes, even back to the whole business structure, sounds like an agent ran DAO, which feels are coming soon if they don't already exist already. I think agents could potentially help fix DAOs from a government standpoint and organization, administrative standpoint. And yeah, maybe DAOs do play a role in some of this new business structure. But when you talk applications, and as my brain keeps going into this AI world, this agentic world that we're in today, and it's only going to grow. It's only going to happen faster and faster, likely exponentially here for the next few years. I almost wonder, does something like applications.com become sort of or the potential to become sort of almost like a decentralized app store in a sense, right? Like the app store put applications on the map, like Google or Apple launched the app store, and now a lot of the success and the stickiness of the iPhone was due to those applications. That application layer very critical, very important. But when you talk about agents, it's like you're talking about ERC's 20s and the standards there. Do they need a platform? Do they need a marketplace? Maybe not, but I can see it there being a need for both humans as well as agents to go to a source, to go to a platform, and it doesn't need to be tied to a phone. It doesn't need to be tied to an operating system or a specific platform. Talking through it, it makes probably more sense that it be a domain that anyone can access, right?
Well, back to his question, agentdao.com is our company. So when I was talking to Fred, the reason why we don't tokenize applications that come on us versus AgentDAO, because AgentDAO is only our bot agent portfolio, okay. Content agent, social agent, codeagent.com, right? So it's a very, very niche tokenization platform for our internal. And so we've been tokenizing the ADAO token, ADAO.ai and AgentDAO, because again, we want to turn these URLs into autonomous companies. But again, we're dealing with a very, very limited small people that know what a fucking DAO is, right? So it hurts our brand in one way because people are like, what is a DAO? DOW, right? Or whatever, mm-hmm. Right? So so you have a small amount of people to understand a lot of this basic stuff, right? Let alone the higher level stuff. So again, AgentDAO is probably a bad word, but again, we believe in the infrastructure, the philosophy, and we've studied it. We love it. We love, some of these really truly decentralized protocols that run. based on open governance and accountability. And it's a hard road fought, but again, they've managed billions of dollars of people's monies. So we truly believe in the business model of a DAO. But we also believe in, again, with no accountability and no, that it doesn't work. The marketplaces and the systems don't work. Because the bad actors win, and then the good actors that come in with the resources won't come in. And so that was part of the crypto problem that's now getting addressed. And so, to answer your question, we're going to eat our own dog food on applications.com. We do want to, turn it into an application marketplace and start generating, decent money again, but we're using our own dog food to eat it, to do it. And so we want the agents to build applications.com and turning into a 10 million, 20 million, $50 million asset. But we want the participation of the human and agents to help do it. And that's why the tokenization with Doma allows us to distribute that value and that wealth, right? And that's the reason why we want to focus on the infrastructure, not the tokenization and the other components that you guys offer.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, application layer, literally and figuratively here. Doma building this protocol layer to build on top of, and then one thing we don't talk about too often, but I do think can and will be some of the magic when we talk about tokenized domains. I'm not sure if any have really nailed it yet, and it's going to take probably the right combination of a domain, the community, those who get in early and support it, as well as who's driving the domain. But this idea of community, and I think where you talk about autonomous and these agents building out stuff, I think I think we'll reach a tipping point where you've got community members building on top of application.com, building out these subdomains, and I could see it getting to a point where community members start it, but then it's almost overtaken by agents and businesses that we may not even be thinking of, ideas, concepts we may not be thinking of today. Fast forward 12, 24 months, all of a sudden you've got a full-blown brand, full-blown business built on top of applications.com. And that to me is when we think about just the number of applications, we think about the size of the industry, how fast it's growing. I do think it's one that will continue to grow exponentially, probably for the foreseeable future. And it's exciting to me to think about where this idea of community and building out collectively can come into play. And for not taking anything away from any of the other domains that have already launched, but I think applications.com is unique in the sense that it really is. It's just a very broad piece of real estate. It could mean so many different things, and it's also, while at the same time, it's the timing is almost perfect for it. For a domain you've held for 30 years, now feels kind of like the sweet spot due to this explosion of AI and what applications may even mean to both us and the robots.
I look, personally, I think it's going to get bought out in the next 12 months by a bigger company that undersees it. But two, I think what you're defining is the ownership economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tokenization allows the community to be the ownership economy. Jesse Walden is a good person that's advocating on this all the time. And so, when you mention tokenization and community, that's why assets are tokenized, to give it to the community, mm-hmm. right? Or the contributors. So I think now that is the value prop of tokenization, is to programmatically share it with the ownership and build community. So that's why, Ian mentioned when Fred came to me 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, listen, you don't have to sell me on it, because we've always been we want to turn our visitors into contributors, right? Because like that, they have let's form a community around fashiondesign.com or something, right? Because otherwise it's just sitting not as an asset. It's a liability theoretically if you don't do something, or it costs you $10 a year or $11 a year to renew it. But if you don't do anything with it, if it's not making you money, it's a liability theoretically. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think we're going, to where the application layer now is finding its own. We saw the Bolt and the Levables and these other companies go from nothing to $100 million companies overnight. um, on the application layer. That is evolving, and that is going to be now integrated into the stack. So I think there's going to be some pretty interesting composable layers that are going to be coming together on it, that are going to increase the value, make it appealing.
What's your thoughts on, like, I don't know, call it micro applications, or yeah, you mentioned like lovables, and there's we hear often like the unicorns, the company that seemingly is overnight success and goes from zero to valued at tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, seemingly overnight. And while those are going to continue to happen, I just saw there's something like 30,000 apps per week getting launched, and I think this number probably continues to go up. But I'm wondering, it's not just the lovables.com or the levels of the world. It's not just the $100 million businesses or brands. It's not just the dumpster.com. Do you see, thanks to AI, thanks to the technology, the ability to code stuff, to develop sites faster, applications faster, the idea of micro applications being successful, whether it's like a lifestyle company, or maybe they've got a portfolio of, I don't know, 100 micro applications that they're all making, $100 to $500 a month, and you do enough of those, that adds up pretty quickly. Is this, do you see it's like, okay, in this world, only the biggest and best are going to win? Or do you see a future where there's just a lot more businesses, a lot more brands, a lot more revenue generating platforms, applications, and an individual might go out and have the ability now to create 10 of those? Is that?
I think the niche, the ability to get to the edge and a niche is more valuable than trying to go big and broad and get zero. Like, I think, what is it called? The inch wide, mile deep, or a mile wide, inch deep, right? Something like that. So I think it's that terminology to where the micro apps are able to be, you only need a small niche to create a lot of value, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it comes down to the definition of value, right? What value are you creating for the other party or your own internal party? So, you have intra networks, right? That was kind of the big term early, right? What do you do internally to increase your value? And so people are building these micro apps to automation and integrations and stuff like that. So, and then they have company facing, where they deploy in the internet. And so I think the end users, what value does it create for you, and how do you spin it up, and how do you adapt it? So that a year ago, probably I'd say it was really rough. Now with the memory and the composability and these other integration components, yeah, you are going to really be able to spin up a company in minutes with fully automated integration and stuff like that. And so whether you're doing it, or you API it in, or you go onto a platform and do it, I think that's already starting to happen. I think that's where you started seeing those application layer, like those lovables. They needed to put it on something. That's why they integrated the registrars. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, great idea. How does the world know about it? Like, and so 30,000 applications. Okay, how do you know about any of them that's going to add value for me? You can't. It's you have to have something else there to, like, that knows who you are, what you're looking for, and it can monitor that stuff 24/7, 365. Mm-hmm. Right. So, hey, okay, let me spin up an app. And to do this little function. So I think we've already started seeing the proliferation of just micro apps. I don't need super sophisticated. I just need this to do this, and this is the value prop. So yeah, I think it's going to get even way more when you can voice chat into it, and boom, and it's deployed. Accountable. Again, I think the biggest risk, again, is where we've seen this song and dance before, where we're giving all of our data to centralized entities. Mm-hmm. And do we trust them, like Google and obviously, OpenAI? And like I said, the Hugging Face hack was an important hack to study, because again, the Turing, if you know computer technology, the Turing test is to determine if a computer program knows it's another computer program. And it's the same kind of thing now, is you don't know if it's a human or an agent on the other end oftentimes. And so you need to deploy something that's, verifiable. And so I don't know where I was trying to go with that, but I think like they couldn't use OpenAI's own system to defend it. They had to use an open source Chinese model to survive themselves, right? So I think it's like a lot of these things are going to be coming together to where I think from our space and as an industry, we still got a lot of improvement to do with how the centralized systems are operated with VeriSign and the DNS and the root zone and the accountability and the communication. And so for us that are making livelihoods on this, don't neglect the hand that feeds us, like they're on the root zone and stuff. It's good, but it's not perfect and can be better. And we got to be aware of that situation, like we saw the other situations with the Hugging Face hack and stuff. Just to be aware of that stuff. It's not all tie and dandy, but we need to do better as an industry as well.
It's like equally exciting and scary at the same time. I can't think of another time in my life where, and I mean, some of yourself, I've grown up in technology and or adjacent to it, and yeah, I can't, like, smartphones were exciting and the App Store was exciting, but I don't ever remember like, oh, this is also scary. Whereas now it's like the security threats are very real. The unknown is very real. And I'm not an AI doomer. I'm not one that thinks like, oh, AI is going to eliminate all jobs or any, it's going to create new opportunities and certainly change some things. But it is, I think, almost equal parts exciting and frightening at the same time. And
hey, living on the edge is
right.
Is thrill seekers, like, look, I think for me, it's the invigoration of, when you pound and ground this long, and the technology is there and it does a good job value. It's exciting to know that, because again, a lot of people ask me where to invest. And I say, find the asset that nobody appreciates or values, and knowing that a technology stack is coming down the line that's going to increase the value. And it's domains. Again, I mentioned that about the carrot. Like every time I am going into physical real estate, this is more of my passion, but it's like, then it's like, oh my God, like, I could have just bought a $3,000 name and I know it's worth 25,000. So it's just one of those ones. Like, I think for a lot of us, for me, it's been interesting to be reinvigorated, because if you recursive looping, you're going to hear a lot about how agentic becomes aware, is because it's looping itself back around. So that loop terminology is what we've been saying for a long time. And so a lot of these seeds we planted 29 years ago are starting to loop back around, right? So applications.com that was seeded 29 years ago is going to have a loop coming around pretty soon. And a lot of these assets and domains, not all of them, but some of them are going to find a 100x because the loop is coming back around if you planted the seed. And so the why we're tokenizing these is because it gives it the additional utility to bring programmability on top of it.
I love it.
So,
I love it. Well, I can't believe time is flying when you're having fun. We already ran up just a little past noon Eastern time. So we will appreciate everyone who's participated in the chat. If you have any questions, get those in the chat here. We'll do our best to get them all answered, and we'll get you out of here onto the rest of your afternoon here shortly. But Chad, if you got time, just a couple more questions. One, thinking about, you talk about this. I mean, earlier you mentioned like you think application.com might sell within 12 months. Some specifics. How much of the domain is being tokenized when it goes live on the 12th here, a little over 7 days? How much of the tokens that are going up for sale, how much does that represent in terms of the percentage of the domain?
We wanted to do more, but I think you guys recommended to lower it. So I think we either did 30% or 20%.
Okay.
I'm not really quite sure. I know we started at 30, at least I did. So I can't remember what we did, but 20 or 30% of that. And then again, the 2% give back to, retroactive, I think is a good strategy, right? So, so I like that approach.
I do as well. When this goes live, so you see the clock here on screen, 7 days, 17 hours. So it's going live on the 12th. How do you think people should think about participating, building on top of it with a subdomain, just holding the asset, both. I mean, if you think you got maybe a 12-month potential exit here, do you have a number in mind? Like what would, I guess maybe two-part question, what would be the number you couldn't say no to on August 20th, so later this month? And then what's realistic? What do you think is a real number you would consider or would be happy to exit at over the next, say 12 months from now?
Look, you got to find the right buyer and you got to position it the right way, right? So it's want to have, need to have, right? So it's one of those ones that kind of fits in the middle. If you have distribution, you have, value, there's value there. It's just finding the buyer that wants that. So look, it's going to be I think it's going to be a $5 to $10 million transaction in 12 to 18 months. Only because we see the application layer going up, not down as a value in terms of the stack. So we have some names that are going down in value that the term means nothing. It's just, but that's not what we're seeing in the tech space. And that's not what we're hearing in the tech space from the big VCs too as well. So they just have to justify it. So again, with the consistent traffic, how it gets built out now that it's tokenized, the future is for us to determine how that happens. But look, we build DAOs. We want to build DAOs. We don't want to be screwed. We want to give value where value is created. We want to find the next, young entrepreneur that says, I want to do this. Like, let's do it. Like, and so for us, we're an open book. We want to be able to say, how do we take this, increase the value? You guys are doing your part, and now it's our part and the community's part to help increase the value, and that alignment, that tokenization is your verification. And so for me, if you're a student going to FAU, which I talk to these departments, say, guys, your resume doesn't mean shit anymore because you can lie on it. Tell me what you've done. Hey, oh, by the way, I own 100 shares of applications.com. Great. What, like those are the things that show me that you can actually understand it, add value, are willing to put the grind in or whatever. And those are the people that are going to really get ahead, I think, in the younger generation. So that's where I see, I think, kind of this going is we're not launching this to exit. We're launching this to get going.
I love it.
So that's just, I think I want people to understand that. That's why we're doing this.
And it feels like the cost, both the cost and the time to experiment, to take some shots on goal. It's better than ever before. And applications.com is one of the few domains, one of the few brands that was relevant 30 years ago. It was relevant, meant something different in 2008 when the App Store launched. And I'd say obviously carries into the AI age. It's still very relevant today, and maybe increasingly relevant with carrying on another new meaning as we move forward. Just I'm excited. I'm glad you brought it. You're bringing it to Doma. Excited for launch. Again, you go to applications.com to get ready for that, to see more details. Also, just a couple before we let y'all out of here, just a quick reminder, limit orders actually went live on Doma. Just ran their first Discord office hours with the engineering team. We've talked about DAVs a few times here on this show. That's domain asset vehicles, making progress. More details coming soon on that. I hear some rumors of some pretty big launches on the DAV fronts. DAVs, be it tokenizing an entire premium domain portfolio into a single asset, enabling shared ownership. We've been talking a lot about that this morning. Programmatic upside and unlocking inaccessible capital. A lot happening in the world of Doma. Partially thanks to leaders like yourself bringing premium domains like applications.com on-chain. Some other just high-level stats before I let everyone out of here. Almost $3 million in volume over the last 24 hours. Liquidity is just under 900K. Total value of these network assets now 76 million. There's been 244,000 tokenized assets, 56,000 unique wallets. And in total, almost 29 million transactions. So numbers keep going up, and I would love to say I think just getting started. Feels to me like almost like top of the first inning when it comes to DomainFi and tokenized domains. And while I get excited every time I speak to someone like yourself or the Doma team, I really do feel it like we're in the extreme minority in terms of even people who are tech savvy and AI savvy that even understand that you can tokenize a domain now, or even familiar with Doma yet. It's as the kids would say, we are so early when it comes to this, but I don't know how long that lasts. I don't know, a year from now, it might still be early, but a lot of the opportunities during that early phase, I think will have come. Still certainly be opportunities, but a year from now, you're not going to be early to applications.com, at least on the tokenization front, or these tokens launching. So if you have questions for the Doma team, Doma protocol, you can find us on X, the YouTube channel. Several of you are over there, a couple hundred of you actually this morning over there watching on YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe. But the team is very accessible. You can jump in the Discord and Chad, anywhere, if someone had specific questions for you, whether it be applications.com or otherwise, where's the best place to reach you after the show between now and the next time we have you on Doma OnAir?
Yeah, Chad at ecorp.com. Best way is to email me.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
Put the subject title so I can see it, because I see a lot of spam right now, and it's getting bad out there. So be careful, be cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm a lifelong domainer. And again, it's exciting to see, again, people like Doma and stuff bringing new technologies and stuff into the asset class. And I think, again, it's people like you guys and us, and, let's focus on also in the future, how can we make society a better place using our domains? Don't take that out of mind, but keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Well, Chad, appreciate you. We talked applications.com today, disintermediation.com. Last time we had you on here, you guys got decades in the domain trenches. It's clearly very forward thinking, not just when it comes to domains, but agent DAOs and tokenization and just really again, time flies. It's a exciting, interesting, refreshing, I'm not even sure the right word for it, conversation, but very much a tech forward individual. And I every time we have these conversations, it's like, what a time to be alive. All the things happening right now. In some cases, we're seeing like the culmination of 30 years of efforts when you're talking about something like applications.com. For those of you listening, if you care about domains as real world assets, from acquisition to liquidity, Chad represents the asset layer here, Doma, the protocol layer. Watch for applications.com, that launch again, August 12th. Will be taking place on Doma. You can track it live at app.doma.xyz/Domascan. That's for some of those other highlights I was just rattling off earlier, and some of those the data. And keep an eye out on how DomainFi is reshaping the app economy. Remember, limit orders again live. Engineering office hours are in Discord, and those dabs coming soon. If you haven't already, subscribe, follow, like, hit all the buttons. Don't park your domains though. Bring them to Doma, turn them into programmable assets, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with the next episode of Doma OnAir. Chad, anything I didn't ask you today? Any final words, closing comments, anything before we let you get out of here?
No, I think NamesCon is in Miami in November. So if you're kind of in the space, getting in the space, whatever, it's one of those. It is the conference of the year to hit and just sync up with people. And there's a ton of opportunity. Everybody thinks it's not limited, but there's more opportunity now than ever before. And that's one of the sessions that maybe get to in Miami in November.
Fun. I mean, if you didn't pick up on that, we were chatting pre-show. Chad does some speaking at FAU. My daughter is going to FAU here in about 2 weeks. And so I'm looking for excuses to get to, I live on the other side of the state, I live in the Gulf Coast, but looking for any excuse possible to get to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, anything that can bring me over there, and I'll take my daughter to lunch, whatever, without me looking like I'm
have a cocktail. We'll have a couple cocktails.
Dad, yeah. Let me finding ways to get to the Miami Boca area. I'm all about it. So pleasure as always. Really appreciate your time today. Best of luck with the applications.com launch, and again, we'll have to do this again. Really, truly enjoy the conversations as I know our audience does as well. So thank you for being generous with your time today. Greatly appreciate it. And again, applications.com, go check it out. And we'll see you all soon for the next Doma OnAir.
Have a good week, guys. Peace.
Buying domains was low, Doma changing the game. One bridge, one standard, now the systems move the same. Registrar stay central, keep the trust and control. DNS and compliance, still they play the key role. Traded on chain, let new markets arise. Domain value unlocked. Welcome to DomainFi.